All right, welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Carl Higbee. Pope Francis continues his efforts to bring peace to Eastern Europe, invoking an extraordinary move to bring peace in Russia and Ukraine. Newsmax correspondent Alex Salvi is live in Poland with the details. Morning, Alex.
Carl, the pontiff is set to consecrate Russia and Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. It's a rare and sacred act, especially for those affected in this conflict. That decision coming in direct response to a request from bishops on the ground in Ukraine, and one that the pontiff hopes will unite the world. Now, earlier this week, he sent a letter to every Catholic bishop inviting them to join him in today's events and calling it a gesture he hopes will end the violence and suffering of innocent people. Now, for some context here, the Vatican says in 1917, Mary appeared to 3 shepherd children in Portugal in what's considered to be the most recent apparition. She gave them 3 secrets, with one warning that another war would be coming after the First World War, entrusting Russia with the ultimate fate. In her memoir, Sister Lucia, one of the visionaries to that experience, said Mary told her that if Russia is converted, there will be peace. If not, there will be war and suffering. But she said in the end, peace will prevail. Now this, of course, all leading up to World War II and decades of communism within Russia. But Pope Francis is hoping to tap into those very experiences, believing that if the people of Russia and Ukraine can turn to prayer during this time, the words of Mary can again bring peace to the region. Now that consecration is set to take place at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Carl?
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, our next guest focuses her time on New York, but her story is layered. She's also a small business owner, a practicing lawyer, and grew up one of 3 children in a family of Jewish Ukrainian immigrants. Councilwoman Inna Vernikov, welcome to Wake Up America. So great to have you here in studio.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course.
So, your story is actually pretty incredible. I mean, and it just gets better and better. You jumped on the other side of the aisle recently, and President Trump noticed it. So, talk about why you decided to cross over to the Republican side.
Well, I actually was never really a Democrat. In New York, there's this notion that you have to be a Democrat in order to have an impact in Democratic primaries. So I was really just a registered Democrat on paper, but never really believed in the recent Democratic ideals. I was always really a Republican in my views.
Like a Reagan Democrat sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, obviously, President Trump took notice of you. You recently had a meeting with him. Tell us about that.
Sure, it was a great meeting. President Trump looks great. He's in good spirits. We talked about New York City a lot. We talked about what's going on in New York City with crime. It's really unsafe. There's homelessness. There's, it's just unsafe. People don't feel safe to go on the train, to go to a restaurant. So we talked about what we need to do to bring New York City back. And then we talked about Ukraine. I'm Ukrainian. I'm from the former Soviet Union. And when I immigrated here, it already was Ukraine. And we're all devastated about what's going on down there in my homeland. And so we talked a lot about that.
Do you have family still in Ukraine?
I don't have family, but I do have my former classmates and neighbors. And I talk to them now on a daily basis. I know exactly what's going on there. And it's really horrific.
Yeah. It is shocking. One of the things that people being criticized on the global stage about is America not jumping in. Would you like to see America a little bit more involved in the offensive nature of this conflict, or do you think we're right where we should be?
Well, I think that the problem is not so much with what President Biden is doing now.
Right.
It's what he could have done before to prevent the situation to begin with. If we look at what was happening before Biden took office, in 2014, we had the annexation of Crimea, right? And we had nothing in between then and now. And now we had a disastrous pullout of Afghanistan. And now we have this situation. And I feel that if there were sanctions implemented earlier, if we had a tougher foreign policy, then this wouldn't have happened to begin with. If the world and President Putin and Russia looked at us as a strong country that we used to once be, then this wouldn't happen.
Yeah. You had an interesting moment with, we want to play it real quick. We have that here. You were raising the Ukrainian flag. What did this mean to you?
Oh, this was an impactful moment for me. We raised the flag, the Ukrainian flag, in unison with the American flag. So right before this, we actually raised the American flag. And this is so symbolic to me as someone who came from Ukraine and now lives and loves America. Ukraine is striving to be what America is now, a democracy, a country of freedom. And it's so symbolic to raise these 2 flags in unison, especially with what's going on now.
I'm sure. You mentioned you have classmates still in Ukraine. You speak to them on a daily basis. What are they saying to you? What is it like there? And how do they feel about the United States? Do they feel that we're doing enough?
So my classmates live in my town where I'm from, which is in western Ukraine, a town of Chernovitz. Right now, it's about 40 kilometers to the border of Romania, and Romania is a NATO ally. And right now, they're not being bombed, but they are hearing sirens 5 times a day, and they are running to bunkers 5 times a day.
That's crazy.
And it is incredibly difficult for them to watch, and they are actually learning how to shoot arms.
Wow.
You know, we just saw you raising the Ukrainian flag with Mayor Eric Adams. You've been a vocal opponent of the mask mandates and some of the other mandates that are, you think, keeping down the productiveness and the attractiveness of New York City. Talk about that.
Sure. Well, not the mask mandates, but the vaccine mandates.
Correct. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, this is America and people need to have free choice. And I think that Mayor Adams really wants to move towards removing all the mandates. You know, I think it's difficult for him because, as he's saying, 50% of people want them removed and 50% of people don't. But I think that he's moving in the right direction in removing all the mandates. We're slowly seeing him do that. Right now, you know, yesterday, the announcement that he'll remove from professional athletes, that he'll remove the mandates, but then teachers and police officers need to be treated the same.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are upset about that because, you know, the athletes don't have to wear them, but teachers have to.
Right.
It's just, that's unscientific.
Yeah. Well, and the recent big hullabaloo was the fact that young kids were still being masked and things like that when, you know, everybody else. What do you think about the notion that, like, look, if you want to wear a mask, that's okay, but if you don't, you shouldn't have to? What do you think about that?
I totally agree with that. And the idea of masking up the kids, I think it's absolute child abuse.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So we happen to agree on that. I've been a big proponent in my hometown of getting that. But real quick, so New York obviously suffered massively during COVID. There were draconian lockdowns, much of which was imposed by the government. What do you think they need to do to start bringing business back, the nightlife back, the life to New York City?
Well, I think Mayor Adams is doing a good job with that so far. I think we need to give him time. But of course, we need to remove all the burdens that the small businesses have experienced. The, you know, the taxes they're paying, the salaries, and the violations. So.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be done in New York. Inna Vernikov, thank you so much for coming on the program today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and you're watching Wake Up America. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.